Good morning. Been digging into the Jeffrey Epstein files and wanted to share some stuff with you guys that I came across. Thank God for Ian Carroll and them, theweb.io that he's provided to us to dig into these files because it's an incredible tool. And I found a connection that I wanted to share with y'all this morning. It's how Jeffrey Epstein helped trigger the 2008 financial crisis. Some PDFs that it was originally linked to that I found that were missing, and so I can't provide those. But I'm hoping that by putting this out, maybe somebody can connect the rest of the story. What if I told you that the 2008 financial crisis, the one that wiped out retirement accounts and caused millions of foreclosures and led to the Great Recession, was triggered by a man who was simultaneously running a sex child trafficking ring? Today, we're diving into Jeffrey Epstein documents to uncover a story that connects Wall Street's collapse to a billionaire pedophile's desperate attempt to avoid prison. Well, the Epstein's Bear Stearns connection. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just some random investor. He had deep ties to Bear Stearns, one of Wall Street's most prestigious investment banks. He joined Bear Stearns in 1976 as a low level assistant, but quickly rose through the ranks. By 1980, just 4 years later, he became a limited partner. Even after he asked to leave in 1981 for what he called Reg D violation, he remained close to Bear Stearns' leadership and was a client until the bank's collapse in 2008. The investment that started it all. Here's where it gets interesting. In August 2006, just 1 month after the federal investigation into his sex crimes began, Epstein invested $57 million in Bear Stearns' high-grade structured credit strategies enhanced leverage hedge fund. That's a mouthful. This wasn't just any fund, it was a highly leveraged and mortgage-backed collateralized debt obligations, the toxic CDOs that would later bring down the entire financial system. Now, if you fast forward to April the 18th, 2007, Epstein was facing mounting legal troubles and needed cash. He was discussing redeeming his $57 million investment. And the critical detail is this fund had a leverage ratio of 17 to 1. That means for every dollar that Epstein had invested, there were $17 of borrowed funds. So when Epstein tried to pull out his 57 million, it was the equivalent of removing 1 billion from the thinly traded CDO market. That was a trigger. The documents are crystal clear about what happened next. The selling of CDO assets to meet the redemptions that month began a repricing process and general freeze in the CDO market. Epstein's redemption attempt began the repricing process and freeze in the CDO market. This repricing caused the collapse of Bear Stearns' fund 3 months later in July 2007, which then led to the eventual collapse of Bear Stearns itself in March 2008. It was a perfect storm. Now consider the timing. By May 2007, as the Bear Stearns fund was beginning to fail, Epstein had started negotiating a plea deal with U.S. Attorney's Office concerning charges for sex with minors. In August 2007, exactly 1 month after Bear Stearns' fund collapsed, U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta entered into direct discussions about Epstein's plea agreement. Here's what should make your blood boil. Acosta later admitted he brokered a lenient deal because he had been ordered by higher government officials who told him that Epstein was an individual of importance to the government. As part of these negotiations, Epstein provided unspecified information to Florida federal prosecutors in exchange for a more lenient sentence. The documents show that the implosion of such complex securities because of their inaccurate rating led to the collapse of Bear Stearns in March 2008 and set in motion the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008 and the subsequent Great Recession. And who started that implosion? According to these documents, it was Epstein's redemption attempt that began a repricing process and general freeze in the CDO market. Can you believe that? I mean, child sex trafficker and all the whole Zorro Ranch, the upscale apartment in New York, the island, all the rubbing elbows with everybody, and here it is that he may have very well caused the 2008 financial crisis. Epstein wasn't just some rich guy making bad investments. He was a former Bear Stearns insider who understood exactly how fragile the CDO markets were. When he needed cash desperately in 2007, both to deal with his legal troubles and because he had just been caught stealing hundreds of millions from Leslie Wexner, he pulled the trigger on a redemption that he knew would have catastrophic consequences. Now, here's the unanswered question that I told you about. It's what should keep us all up at night. What unspecified information did Epstein provide to prosecutors that was so valuable that they gave him a sweetheart deal? Was it information about the coming financial collapse? Did he warn certain people to get out before the market crashed? Or was it something completely different? The documents don't give us all the answers, but they paint a pretty ugly picture of a child sex trafficker through his desperate financial moves may have helped trigger the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. And in return for information we still don't know what it was, he got a sweetheart deal that allowed him to continue his crimes for a whole nother decade. And that's not just a financial scandal, that's a complete breakdown of justice. Hello, Pam Bondi. Anyway, I want to thank Ian Carroll and his crew for providing the tools to be able to do these kind of searches. That it's incredible stuff that you can't find anywhere else. Thanks, Ian.